What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you're currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Arwin, Jose and Ranty. Good to have you all.
Good to be here.
Good afternoon.
Hello guys.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Any signs of curvature?
No.
No.
I mean, no, Jose.
Well, you know what? Yes, there's signs of curvature everywhere. Everywhere I record, even if there's mirroring and inferior mirages, that's not it. That's not it. It's curvature. Everything reflected in the apparent horizon. No,
you just
ignore
have to keep
that.
R
It's
in mind.
curvature.
No, that wasn't.
Just keep R in mind.
That wasn't the prompt I was giving you. Oh my god. God, you got memory like a sieve. Literally, we discussed this about 5 minutes. Soundly, right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, soundly gets curvature every day. It doesn't matter if there's mirroring, inferior mirages. It's all curvature. Thank you, Soundly, for showing the curvature every single time you observe.
Okay, so what's his most recent observation and your objection to it, Jose?
Well, he did a short video yesterday with the cell phone. It was really bad quality, but still you could see what was going on. And what was going on, it was this big, thick band of Mirage and the mirroring effect that we have caught many times. So he say, you can see a little bit of the inferior Mirage, but ignore that. It's the curvature of the Earth. You can see this bascule on the bridge. You're missing this part of the bridge, and then the bridge started coming from behind the horizon. So everything is going behind the horizon. It's not the mirroring effect. Ignore that part. It's all curvature. That's what he say.
Ignorance is bliss.
Well, we'll hopefully shed some light on that now. Are you there, Ranty?
I am.
Right, so Ranty contacted me this morning with just a happy coincidence, really, in terms of some of the information that he had dug out from his old hard drive. So Ranty had lost a lot of the information because of a hard drive failure, but he's paid to have it all retrieved, which is happy days. So I don't know if you want to tell us about that first. It's not that riveting, but more importantly, what you showed me this morning, Ranty, because it ties directly to what Jose's detailing about Soundly and his claims of curvature, where we see miraging.
Well, you know how many videos I've taken over the past year. I mean, there's literally thousands of videos and thousands of images, and I don't really share an awful lot of them. In fact, most of them don't get spoken about at all. And I showed you this video. It must have been what, 6 months ago, and we couldn't understand what it was because at the time we hadn't understood what the inferior mirage was doing. And it just so happened that when I got the hard drive data back, the first folder that I opened just happened to have the date 25th of June 2018. So I just opened it, started watching the video, and was immediately blown away by how impressive this this footage was. And now, knowing what we know now, we're able to explain it pretty easily.
Okay, absolutely. So do you want to stick it up and we'll go through it?
Okay, just one sec.
Looking forward to watch this. With my old camera, the first observations that I had, that's all I had. All the mirroring effects going on. It's something beautiful to look at, but it's no curvature, man.
Well, in this instance, it certainly isn't curvature, and you'll find out for why in a moment. Okay, so Ranty's got his picture of a boat up on screen, and do you want to tell us a bit about the boat first? This one.
Okay, so yeah, so I've been trying to find out what this boat's called. I think it's called, hang on, I'll tell you what it's called right now. It's called the Salt Island, and it's a tug. I've only just found out it's called the Salt Island because I'd actually thought it was a different boat until I actually got in touch with the company that owns this. They gave me the data for the original one that I was looking for. And now because I've requested the data for this one, it's taken a little longer, so I don't have the GPS for it. However, I have found it on Ship AIS, and I can place it to around about 1.4 miles away from me. So,
I just want to, sorry to interrupt. I'm going to do this a lot. I'm no, sorry, Ranty. So 1.4 miles away. So this isn't very far away. Let's just get that clear. We're not talking about stuff that's massively in the distance. We're talking stuff that's in the near, well, mid-distance, mile and a bit. Okay, sorry, Ranty.
Yeah, I mean, it is really close. And to be fair, I mean, I even thought it was probably closer than that. And because I'm actually trying to gauge the distance off an image on Ship AIS rather than the actual GPS data, I'm sure when I get that information through, it will be a little clearer. But from what I can ascertain, it's around about 1.4 miles away. So I'm just going to play a bit of the video. You'll notice how clear, calm the water is. You'll notice it's like a mill pond, essentially. And basically, I'll show you my position. And I'm at the top of the steps. So I'm at quite an elevation here. I'm probably around about 30 feet above sea level. So I'm going to zoom into the boat, and I'm going to have a look at it, and then I'm going to go down the steps again and try and film it from a lower elevation. So what's really interesting on this boat is it has some tires that are sort of listing in a way. When I zoom into it, you'll see exactly what I mean. So if I pause it on a good image, there we go. We've got these tires, and it seems like the boat's being pulled down at the front. Maybe that's just the way the design of it or what have you. But as you can see, these tires, they go down in like steps, to the point where at this position here, we actually have the tire touching the water. And yet at the back of the boat, we have a tire that's at least a tire depth away from the water. It's actually moored up as well with an anchor. So essentially, we're just looking at the boat. Looks nice, beautiful, calm, flat, no problems, and it's not that far away. And what I'll do is I move and I go down the steps. So I'm just going to fast forward it a tiny bit.
Hold on, just before you go back to the image, can you just spin to the end where you show the actual height of the tripod, just so it's got good continuity?
Okay.
Here we go.
So there's the tripod height. Now the tripod itself right now is set to 1 foot, 12 inches. That's the height of it. The height of the step here is 7 inches. The height of the tripod is 12 inches. And then I obviously have to screw the camera onto it. So the center of the lens is going to be probably another 2 or 3 inches higher than the tripod. So we're looking at around about 15 inches above actual sea level.
Just play, because it's below the water. So the start of the tripod is maybe, it's the water's over it. So, it's about 12 inches above the water.
A foot, yeah, a foot. An inch or two is not going to be a huge difference.
But for ease of round numbers, because it's in the water, I'm going to call that a foot. And then you've got a nice gauge of the step at 7 inches. I don't think anybody's going to argue with me as you've measured those steps.
Yes, I've actually measured them. Anyway, so here we've got the tripod set up, cameras on top of it. So that's where I was taking the imagery from. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what was actually captured. So this is me starting to zoom in. And notice the difference. I want you to pay attention to the actual tires on this particular boat. If I pause it right there, what we have the tire at the back. Now, bearing in mind that this boat, the hull of it at the back was brown. I might have an image of that ready to show you, actually. Let me just see. One will it be? That one? No, not that one. That one. There we go. So this is from the higher elevation. This is what it should look like. You should be able to see this sort of brown hull of it. And bearing in mind that the boat's only 1.4 mile away and the elevation is at least a foot, there should be no issue with curvature. So we're not getting any curvature between the horizon, obviously in the ball earth model. the horizon won't have been reached from my observation when I've got it down at a foot. So it's essentially just looking at the boat. I should have no problems with curvature. The water is extremely, you know, placid. You know, there's hardly any waves at all. So when I'm looking at it, I should be able to see this part of the boat here, and I should also be able to just look at the boat just like this, but just from a lower elevation. That's not what we see. That's not what we see at all. What we actually see is this inferior mirage. Now, I've been going on about this, and Nathan's heard it a lot. And we've got this inferior mirage definitely going on the boat. We're definitely seeing it. We can see the reflection here, the mirage, and we can see the mirage on the actual line that's holding the anchor in place. And if you watch and you pay attention to the left-hand side of the boat over here, what you'll see in a moment is you'll see little bits of brown starting to peep out as the, I don't know what it is that's doing it. Nathan, you've got an idea. There we go. We can just start to see it just appears and disappears. It just starts to show its face, and then there we go. Look at that. Really cool.
So yeah, my explanation for this is the physical deck itself, the thing you're looking over, the water. Yes, it's very, very calm. In other words, there's no cresting waves, but it's not still. It's moving, it's undulating, and as a consequence, it's changing the amount of angle you have to the bottom of this boat from your 1 foot elevation. So you've got a slightly more wide angle, then a slightly less angle. So it's getting wider and narrower, the angle of view to the bottom of the boat as the angle of the deck changes, because it's physically moving. So that is what's causing this mirage to physically change its location as the angle that you can view it to changes with the water's movement. So this is, like all of them, it's just the angle of incident that you're looking at, the angle of attack, how narrow the angle to the bottom of this boat is. And this angle, even though it's nothing to do with Earth curve, it can't be at this distance, is just the same as when you see things further into the distance across the flat plane that we dwell atop. So ultimately speaking, this is the same angle causing things to disappear from bottom up, but at a distance that you couldn't possibly claim it was Earth curve. It's the same exact effect. Things at the bottom are starting to disappear, and they're going into this, what used to be called dirty air. And this mirage is caused by, as Anthony pointed out at the beginning, the Rayleigh criterion. It's basically you're seeing, in effect, the diffraction limit being reached and breached at the bottom, at the closest to the deck, because it's the most limited of angle. So the top stuff's totally unaffected, because you've got a much wider angle of view to the top than you do to the bottom. But when he's right near the surface, the angle to the bottom of this boat is so limited that you're ending up with it reaching its diffraction limit for the bottom section, and then you end up with this mirage underneath it, exactly as described in the Rayleigh criterion.
And I've got a video ready to play. Well, it's not really ready to play. It's part of Good Tims for All. He's allowed us to play it many a time before. And what he does is he sets this plate up on a flat surface in a warehouse. So if I'll just pause it there. So what he's done is he's got it all marked out. He's got all these numbers. And what he does is he places his camera down onto the floor, and he just pulls away. He just goes further and further away. And what happens is you get this same effect. So if you remember the tires, let me just pause it. So yeah, so if you look at this now and you look at the tires, we seem to be getting that same sort of number 8 effect, where it's being dragged down and stretched and dragged down and stretched. I'll show you the footage again. Can you see where it's being stretched down and stretched down? Exactly the same. I have an image that I can zoom in on and show you. Bear with me. I think it's the next image, because this is an image that I took from the step again. Or is it back? There we go. So here we go. This is zooming in. So we're looking at these tires now. So all these tires, we're seeing these ones, and then these ones, they start to morph into the Mirage. So they're all morphing into the Mirage. Now, we know that these are at least probably 2 foot or more above actual sea level at this time. And there's no curvature to be accounted for because the horizon hasn't been met. The boat isn't that far enough away. So what is causing this? Well, essentially, we can't see. In this image we do. We see a bit of the back of the boat. Not all of the boat, as you would see, but in the video, we don't see any of this. This is all hidden, and we don't get to see it. And this dragging down of the inferior mirage caused by, like you say, Nathan, the diffraction limit, is causing the bottom of the boat that we should be able to see not being able to see. So whenever we see an inferior mirage, we have things behind it that we should be able to see, just as evidenced in this boat. We should be able to see the back of the boat, this brown stuff. We don't get to see that because it is hidden inside this diffraction limit behind the inferior mirage. Absolutely crystal clear.
Yeah, just one small correction. So when Ranty says should be able to see, he's working on the pretense that we've put this inside elevation like the Globers do. We're seeing the side of our own head, and they've drawn a single line to the bottom of the boat. And according to their misrepresentation of our world, they would say that you should see the bottom of the boat. Well, no, it doesn't matter about the distance. The Rayleigh criterion is applied to microscopes. So it doesn't matter. If something is beyond the diffraction limit, this is the effect you see. And the angle to the bottom of this boat is too small to see. There it is, the
Ranty,
diffraction limit in action.
Do you notice,
well done, Ranty. Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Okay. I got a question. Did you notice when you're in the higher position, when the whole boat is clearly seen, the horizon, the apparent horizon behind the boat appears higher? You can see the line on the horizon behind the boat. Now, when you are in the lower position and this mirroring effect is taking place visually, you lose the horizon behind the boat. And it's not that you lose it, it's still there in the same spot. You just lose it because it's now behind that band of the mirroring effect, and you just lose the whole thing. And the horizon appear lower, but it's not lower, it's in the same position. I mean, you just not seeing it.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that the sky, especially on days like this, well, I mean, any day really, the sky itself mirages down over the ocean, so you can't actually see where the real ocean ends and where the, where the sky starts and where the ocean ends. You can't see it because you got this inferior mirage that's always happening.
Yeah, I got some of these observations too. I still got them in SD cards. I'm gonna have to revisit them because I got a few videos going higher in position and then lower. So I got this piece of land in the background. It's mirroring. You can see like floaty land all the way around. And then when I go in the really lower position, I lose the whole land. But it's just getting diffused with the mirroring effect. I mean I've seen it with my own eyes, so I understand.
Well, one thing we do know for sure is that we should be able to see this this line that goes to anchor the boat. We should be able to see the line because we do actually see it from the top. It goes all the way and stretches out down to here. And by virtue of knowing that we had a full tire length down to the bottom, again, we should be able to see that from this distance. We should be able to see the back of the boat. There should be no problem with curvature. So I'm going to ask the Globers, why can't we see in your model? Why can we not see part of the boat? The back part of this boat that's nice and brown and very evident when there's no curvature in the way, right? Because there is no problems with an earth curve at this distance. What is causing this? Because you used to say that where this inferior mirage happened, that was where the curvature of the earth was. And that's always been your claim. Soundly, that's been your claim. So I'm going to say to you now, I'm saying you're lying. I want you to prove it. I want you to disprove this. I want you to disprove this observation and tell us what is blocking or stopping us from seeing the back of this boat.
Everything is to see here. Everything is to be analyzed in this bottom, in the lower section of the observations. So don't sweep it under the rug, Soundly. This is the important part where the obstruction takes place, which is not the curvature of the earth. And you say, there's nothing to see here. Move along. Look at the top of the building or ignore the mirroring and the inferior mirages. I say no to that, man.
Yeah, if you're seeing that, you know that you've reached the diffraction limit of whatever it is you're looking at based on the distance and the angular size to the bottom of it. And if that's the effect that you're seeing, I mean, we're lucky enough to see this. If there's waves, if this wasn't like a mill pond, the waves in the foreground would obstruct the diffraction limit of this camera. So all you'd see is the bottom of the boat obscured. Now, when you've got more severe weather, or any sort of waves for that matter, because this is literally like a mill pond, they claim that the bottom of the boat's disappeared. No. Stuff in the foreground's obscured the midpoint of the camera, and you may not be able to see the diffraction limit because it's obscured by stuff in the foreground. In this instance, you can, at a very small distance, see the diffraction limit of the camera. That limited angle, and what happens to stuff when it reaches and breaches it. It disappears from the bottom up, and before it does, you see this exact effect, as described by the Rayleigh criterion. This is what happens at that limitation of angle. And if you pushed it further out, more of the boat would go into that angle as it got smaller. So where this is happening, that angle at that particular portion of this frame would be more of the boat if the boat's angular size decreased. So if you push this boat to 3 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles, the boat would get smaller and therefore sit in that limited angle. So more of the boat would disappear from bottom up because of the angular limitation at distance.
That's it. That's it.
It's not Earth curve, it's perspective.
And so I'll just show you the next image, because this is from the higher up. This is this, you know, line that's going into the water. You can clearly see how long it is and how high it is. And yet on the previous image, when we should be able to see it all we get is a inferior mirage of it, doubles back on itself when there's no blockage, there's no curvature of the Earth causing this effect. This is an atmospheric effect, has to be, and it's not caused by Earth curvature.
I wouldn't say atmospheric, I'd say optical. It's a limitation of the angle. If you were seeing the bottom of it obscured because there was a few waves in the foreground blocking the bottom of it, then I'd say it was an atmospheric effect, but it's quite the contrary. You've got so limited atmospheric effects that you can actually see the diffraction of your limit of your camera at the bottom of this boat without waves obscuring it. So it's because it's a mill pond and you don't have any atmospheric interference that you're getting to see the diffraction limit of your camera over a very short distance. Now this is proved out by all the people who've done angle of attack videos. You don't need miles, you can do it in yards if you've got a small enough aperture. Now obviously you're doing this with the P900, it's got a nice big aperture, so yeah, you've got to do it over miles rather than yards or sometimes feet. But you still see the diffraction limit if there's nothing obscuring it, i.e. waves in the foreground, which there usually is. So the chances are on most days you wouldn't get to see this, because there'd be a wave blocking the view of it. You know, if I'll just move my mouse over it, if this wave was up here, it's closer to you in the foreground, therefore perceived to be bigger. Its relative size is larger, therefore potentially can obscure something up here, and therefore you wouldn't get to see this effect. You just see the bottom of this boat obscured. Well, again, it wouldn't be by Earth curve if it was.
Well, what's so cool about this entire observation is the design of the boat and where these actual tires sit on the boat. It's the same effect as if you moved away from the boat. By having it like this, where it goes down towards the water, it's the same as if I was further away, because it's actually pulling it down into that narrow angle. So you actually get to see the effect on the boat in stages, in literal stages. It's like that would be, you know, 2 or 3 miles away, or whatever, a mile and a half away. This one would be at 2 miles away. This one will be at 3 miles away. This is what you'd see at around about 4 miles away, simply by the way the boat is actually, you know, angled like so.
Yeah, precisely. If you're at the higher elevation and you just cause this effect by pushing the boat further away, i.e. making it smaller, not actual size, yeah, not the physical sizes that are used in the lying calculators these guys are purveyors of, but in reality, the physical size that you see is smaller. It's less in the frame of your camera, and therefore closer to the limited angle of view, this part of the camera's frame where the mouse is right now. And if this boat was further away, it would be smaller, and therefore more of it, this section for example, would be lower down and in the limited angle. And therefore this bit would have the same effect happening too, and you'd lose the bottom completely as it goes beyond the diffraction limit.
And lastly, we do have a tire that's in this location here and this location here, and essentially they're very compressed, almost to the point that you can't even recognize what they look like. So if you was again pushing that boat back to say a 4 or 5 mile distance, the effect of compression is now evident in this stagnated drop on these tires. So you can actually force the idea that if this was 4 miles away, but at the height of this is what you would see.
And then think about in the bigger scale, 10, 15, 20 miles away, you know?
Oh yeah, well, that's what I mean. That's why the observations of Barrow, when you don't see the bottom of those land masses and you see floaty land, and it's quite evident that there's an inferior mirage going off in that particular location, and yet there's no looming effect noticed by virtue of that post. So it is a blockage of the inferior mirage that's causing that. So not all blockage from the bottom up is curvature of the Earth, and this demonstrates that.
Kudos, Ranty. Absolutely awesome.
No worries, no worries. We're still on housekeeping though, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm happy to continue. Any signs of axial rotation? Now we've debunked Soundly's assertion that the miraging effect needs to be completely ignored, even though it's caused by the limitation of an angle of view that would cause things to disappear from bottom up. Now I've moved past that. Any signs of axial rotation?
No.
No.
Any evidence you can have a gas pressure without a container?
Oh, Don Trader, after show last night, it was cringy. Thank you, Don, for giving us a little bit of a laugh on the side chat, but man, you keep asserting these things without any proof. It's just you believe, bro.
What about scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope. We're asking for it though.
Oh yes, please. If
Yeah,
someone's got some in the audience,
got
feel
any,
free to
Arwin?
join. Click the link and tell us all about your scientific evidence of gravity. Excellent.
Okay. Good luck with that.
About the distance to the sun.
Well, we don't even know what the sun is. I see Globebusters put a video out yesterday saying that it's possible it could be made of water.
It's
If
also...
we knew what the sun was, we'd be finding treasures under the rainbow all the time.
I disagree with the water part. Maybe water is involved in the source somehow, but yeah, water is still physical, and it's not a physical ball of water or anything out there. So I think it's a silly notion to say it's water.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
This one always giggles me. He's a no.
About the R value? Any evidence of Earth radius?
R.
No.
Do we get these little...
Right.
No.
These little peaks and troughs in housekeeping, like this morning, where someone comes along and asserts Earth curve, usually by putting people into a side elevation and claiming that we should have direct lines of sight with things if we live on a flat plane. However, that nonsense is quickly dealt with and debunked. Thank you, Soundly, for giving us about 20 minutes of material. Really appreciate it. Nonetheless, you haven't proved Earth curve. You've proved that you can have a limited angle to things, and things will disappear from the bottom up on a flat plane due to the limited angle that you have to them. Amazing, that. Prove it in small scale.
Yeah, he
you can even do it
proves
with a microscope.
He proves we must ignore the optical effects in order to have curvature.
Well, no, Soundly's deluded fans can ignore it because he tells them to, but they're just stupid.
Yeah.
I was hoping Anthony was going to join, as he's got a bit of a bee in his bonnet for conspiracy cats at the moment. Although he did tell me in advance that he may not be able to join, but nonetheless he did speak to me this morning with a debunking of something that conspiracy cats has asserted. He's made a bit of a cock up in his claim, which is amusing. But there we go. I'm not interested. I haven't actually watched it, and Anthony was getting a bit frustrated with me. You know, why aren't you taking this more seriously? And I'm like, I don't care about their stupid model and misrepresentations in side views. These guys and their bloody models, you included, Anthony, if you're listening to this, you know, bloody hell, let's not beg the question. But on the other hand, you know, Anthony's looked into it and found the hole. It just happens to be a gaping hole, which was amusing. You know, like I say, if I hadn't paid attention, which I wouldn't, and I haven't, that gaping hole wouldn't have been exposed. But we may or may not see Anthony to do exactly that. We'll see. I know Anthony was hoping someone would join and assert. Oh, here we go. Hey, Anthony.
Yo.
Good timing.
Hey, let me throw a little comment over here, a little disclaimer, and this is my personal view, my personal opinion. I don't necessarily agree with everything said in the show. That being said, I got nothing personal against you, Soundly, against any of the bowlers. I'm just disgusted with your assertions of the Mirage and the Rayleigh's criteria and all this stuff that you must ignore, and you call it curvature. I call that bullshit. So I don't have anything personal against you. I got everything personal against your, you know, about your interpretation of the footage. So
how about willing ignorance? Literally.
I've got something personal against Soundly. He's the most dishonest sack of shit I've ever come across.
I concur.
Well, actually, Conspiracy Cats is not that far behind.
Oh, Conspiracy Cat's just... I'm not going to speak about him. I said I wasn't going to, so...
Oh, I'm uploading a response now.
Okay.
He's fucked up really big. And this is a physics teacher, right? He's a physics high school teacher, self-professed. May well be, may well not be, who knows. But he's fucked up badly. And initially, I just... Ooh, who the fuck's that?
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Scott. How you doing?
Okay.
Good to have you.
I'm not expecting somebody new to join pre-show. Who is this?
He's not new. He came on yesterday.
Yeah, I'm kind of new though.
Oh right, okay. So has he been added to the Master Beat chat, Nathan?
I honestly don't know. No idea.
Okay then. So
we are live, by the way, Anthony. Just so you know, we are live. This is not pre-show. We are actually live. Just so you know.
Live.
Cool.
Yeah, we're live. Yeah.
Oh, it's because it's Monday, isn't it? Shit, sorry. Well, in that case, I'll reassert my position with more vigor. Soundly, you're the most dishonest person I have ever come across. I didn't realise that we're already live. My bad.
Yeah, I'm pretty ignorant of who all the characters are here. I mean, I know who Nathan is, and I'm familiar with Arwen. About it.
Yeah, by the way, Riley, you're always live on the show, didn't you know? The pre-show is recorded as well, so...
yeah, the pre-show people sometimes don't watch it and things get missed or whatever. You can relax a little bit more because not everybody watches the pre-show.
I'm Ranty Flat Earth. Nice to meet you.
And I am a homosexual.
I'm No Way Jose, the guy that has Jeranism P900 and is slaying the bowlers' observations.
And
Cool.
I'm Arwen, and I have my own show, 1 hour before the debates, Flat Earth Early Bird.
And I've just debunked Conspiracy Cats. Big time.
So you're going to show us?
I want to hear about it.
Anthony, or not?
Sorry, say again.
Are you going to show us?
Yeah. Do you want me to
Can I show you first something?
Yeah,
sure.
Go ahead while
That's
Anthony's
pretty
doing
cool.
it up. That would be good. Perfect timing, Ranty.
Okay, so I just went to the 26th of June, so it's literally the next day. First video up, again, something sensational. We have the Stena Line, and what I'm going to do is hopefully if I can get a full image of it at some point. There we go, let's just get a full image of that. I'm just going to take a print screen of that. See, notice again how mill pondy this water is at the time, and actually at the start of the video, we actually see Peel Castle in the background, which is rather cool. So I've just taken a screenshot of that.
So for those that are not paying attention, you shouldn't see Peel Castle. You should be behind the curve of the Earth.
Indeed.
If we beg the question and use a perspective hijacking proof of nothing begging the question curve calculator to assert in a side view that what we should or shouldn't see matches with this side view. Sorry.
So there we have an elevated shot of the Stena Line, and I zoom back out. I run down the steps, get down as low as I can go again, and I'm going to zoom in onto the same two boats. Firstly, that's the very compressed little boat that was in the foreground. It's totally out of focus. Still, I'm going to fast forward through that and get to the big boat, because that's the one that we'll see this on. And here we have the very now compressed Stena Line. Look at that. Look how compressed that is. Now, if I print screen that, and now I go back to Paint and I do another one, I'll paste that. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to crop that out. Show you what it looks like compared to the other one. I'll just roughly scale it to the same sort of width, and just get it somewhat lined up. It's not going to be dead on perfect, but you get the idea.
That red funnel didn't line up with that red funnel then with the S on it.
Is it a slight? Don't forget, I've run down the steps, so it's at a slightly different angle.
Yeah, but don't you have to line up the S? Yeah, that's more like it.
There we go. So that's pretty much the same image width.
Wow, look at that! Look at that curvature of the Earth we can see there. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But look how narrow.
Where's the rest of the boat gone?
Yeah, look how narrow it is. Look,
hidden behind the curvature, man. Come on.
We've still got Stena Line and Stena Line. We've still got the orange under the boat. Orange under the boat.
Sorry, I've got to now do this. I'm sorry, guys, but for those who don't know what sarcasm is, we haven't lost anything. It's become compressed. So while they're saying curve of the Earth, some people might take that as actually being serious. We haven't lost anything. It's got squashed.
Yeah,
it has got squashed. And outside,
because it's all looming up behind the curve.
God,
and so if I've
got to do it again. So nothing's looming. The bottom of the boat isn't looming into the midsection. God, give me a break, Carl.
It's fractal looming. Come on, I've been talking about
fractal looming is based on begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator that assumes R, and then they take that and add 7/6 R to it to give you the looming of this bending light around the presupposed spherical Earth based on R. God, you're not making my life easy, are we?
Yes, and then on top of that is the micro looming and the miraging. So it's fractal looming. It's the entire thing is looming, and within the looming there's a fractal of more looming happening. So it's fractal looming. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
At this point, if you're prepared to accept what Arwin said as a baller, then more power to you.
Proportionally, the top part of the boat is relatively the same outside of the narrow viewing angle, and yet when we look at the bottom part, so the hull, well, obviously we're starting to see the compression from around about here now, but essentially we've lost at least 50% of the bottom, at least 50%. Top part of the boat, out of the narrow viewing angle, retains the same angular size, and the lower part is all compressed. That's where we're losing
one additional point, sorry, Ranty. So again, as you can probably see from the state of the sea itself, that it's very calm. There's not massive waves cresting, and the same principle applies as to the other boat. If there was big waves, the waves in the foreground would be potentially higher than the limited angle that Ranty has been fortunate enough to catch. So therefore, if a wave in the foreground was higher, it would appear like the bottom of the boat, if the words Stena Line were obscured by waves in the foreground, had disappeared from bottom up. Now that is another different way, not just the limitation of the angle, because if this Stena Line boat on the top image was further away, it would be smaller, therefore more of it would be in the limited angle, and it would go beyond the diffraction limit and of its own volition, just through its distance and limited angle to the bottom of it, disappear from bottom up. But also, you have things in the foreground, i.e. waves, that can cross the midpoint of your camera view, and when that happens, it will look bigger than the thing in the distance, and if it's higher than the midpoint, it will obscure that thing that we can currently see because it's calm, which is the word Stena Line. So they could potentially be behind what looks like a wall of water. It won't be. It's just something in the foreground obscuring something that has a very limited angle in the background. Bit of a mouthful. Sorry to interrupt again.
No worries. That's it. That's all I wanted to show you. Was just that was just a real-time video, and I'll just show you again that there's no trickery. It's all one video. I just took them from a low elevation here down at around about, what would you say, around about 1.5 feet, 2 feet maybe, and then at the top of the rail from around about 30 foot. Just two separate images, a nice wide angle and a very narrow angle down here. There we go.
And I've been able to catch this kind of effect, not as strongly compressed as this one, but I'm getting the same effect. Red Pill Philosophy is a huge example of this effect taking place. So kudos to you guys. And this is one of the first times that you figured this out, right? When you observed this compression thing, Randy?
It was. I wouldn't say it was this particular video. It's just that because I've got all my data back now and I've been without it for the last 2 months. Simply, you know, just going through it. I only got it back last night. And that's the second folder that I've just opened up. The first one was the first presentation. And that one was from the second day. I've got so much stuff that's just there waiting to be shown.
Like Christmas.
It is.
That's great work, man.
The most interesting thing, I'm sure you did mention this earlier, was that Ranty actually showed that to me several months ago when he first took it. And like always, Ranty will contact me after he's been out and done some observations, very excited, and then I do the same. I'm very excited with like a couple of schoolgirls giggling and getting excited. Hi, Daniel. But he showed it me,
hey,
and both of us were perplexed at the time. Hi, Daniel. We both said the same thing, which is, what the hell's going on? What is causing this? And we both went, I don't know. So you just kind of move on and go, well, okay, hopefully one day we'll be able to explain it. Then his hard drive goes kaput. And then you get it back and go, we just happen to be discussing this right now. What a happy coincidence. So, Anthony, have you had enough time to get yourself ready?
I have.
Right,
what I'll do is I'll share my screen. All right, so Conspiracy Cats' latest video is entitled "Game Over for Flat Earth, This Photo Kills It Dead." Well, bear in mind that Conspiracy Cats is a high school teacher that teaches physics. The guy can't physics. So what I'm going to show that he bigs it up, saying how massive this is, and it proves that the Earth cannot be flat. Because what he's saying is that when you get the Mount St. Helens in the foreground and you get Mount Rainier in the background, when he draws the line up to the diagonal line to them, if the Earth was flat, let's hide that, his position is, as you can see, that Rainier must be smaller if the Earth's flat. So this is his claim, right? Now, bear in mind, this is orthographic, and we all know that the minute you go into side elevation, you're not taking into account perspective, which is our point. If you take into account perspective, it all goes badly wrong for Conspiracy Cats, because it proves that the Earth has to be flat, because Mount Rainier shouldn't even be seen on a sphere, right? Listen, I'll say it again. Mount Rainier should not even be seen on a sphere on this photograph, because it's that far away from the camera, and it's reduced in size and then dropped into the curvature. Like I've always said, this mountain should not be seen. If this mountain was basically parallaxed with it, you could see that none of it should be seen. He's got it on a slightly different angle and whatnot. But the point is, you wouldn't even see this if you could see down to the bottom. And I'm going to go through now and show you for why. So just remember, his position is that this mountain, St. Helens, is smaller than Mount Rainier. But the problem is, the maths that he's done is based on this Mount St. Helens at 60. Well, hang on. He's changed that now. He's got a different value there. He had a different value in there earlier on. He's got 1982, and he's using 1655. I wonder what. I'm not sure what he's used 1655 for. I'd have to rewatch this part of it. But what I'm able to do is challenge what these cited heights are and just validate the claim. Oh, he's reduced the height off for the height of the mountain he's at. Doesn't matter. So what his claim is, it starts with 1982, 4392. But what we can do with that information is we can put them into an angular size converter, Now, you guys may not be able to see this because I can't get it any bigger. Mind you, I might be able to get it a little bit bigger. You're maybe not going to see it, but basically,
sorry,
when
I've made
checked,
it bigger, just move it slightly left.
Is that enough?
That's great. That's great.
So what I've done is I'll see if I can get these moved out a little bit. No, it's not worked. All right, so what I've done is I've used an angular size converter, and I'm happy that Rayleigh is the height that it is according on his depiction, and I'm happy that the distance is the way it is. So I've put these values in. I've put 167371 would be 167371, and the height of 4392. Just calculated them, and I've got the angular size of 1.5 degrees. Now I'm happy with that, but with regards to mounts and talons, we have an issue because I mean I'm not saying that I'm definitely right here, but when I do a quick check on Wikipedia, it says that the highest point for what's it called, mounts and talons, is actually 2549, whereas Conspiracy Cats has got it as 1982. Well, that's significant because 1982 is not near 2589 or whatever it was. I mean, there's like 600 meters of difference there, and that's significant. So it appears that this value that he's got for the height of mounts and talons is wrong. I'm not saying it is wrong. I'm just saying that I've not got that number when I've looked it up. It appears that it's significantly smaller for some reason. Not entirely sure why. There may be more to it, but it doesn't matter. It just means that the claim that he's making is not based on numbers that I've been able to validate myself when I've been researching it. Now, basically, I'm going to do it on a different. I'm going to calculate what should actually be the case by applying this principle. So we know that it's double effect when we look at a mountain in the distance. So we know that as we go further away with Mount Rainier, we know that it gets smaller, but we also know that it drops into the curvature of the Earth. So it's a double effect. You have to do two processes. You have to calculate what the angular size of it should be, but you've also got to make that curvature. You've got to show it dropping into that curvature. And this is where it goes badly wrong for Conspiracy Cats. So what I've done here, I can't really make this any bigger. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit. That's better. So I've got the 1.5 is the angular size for Mount Rainier. Now, basically, because Conspiracy Cats has used two different, he's got a value that doesn't seem to be right. He's got 1980 for his claim for mounts and talons, but it appears that it's 2549 rather than 1980. So basically, there's a difference there of quite a few hundred feet. It makes a significant difference to the size of the angular size of Mount St. Helens, because it goes from his claimed height of 1980, which is 1.3 degrees, to 1.6 degrees if you use the proper size that it appears to be. Again, I'm not saying it actually is these sizes. This is just the size that it appears to be on Google, on Wikipedia. But you can see that it's because Mount Rainier is 1.50. You can see that 1.30 and 1.68 basically straddles it either side. And it's the difference between Mount St. Helens being bigger than or smaller than Mount Rainier. So it's really important which the actual sizes are. So Mount Rainier is 1.50. I'm going to disregard his claim. I'm going to use the one that it seems to be on Wikipedia because I think he's got it wrong. So then Mount St. Helens in the foreground should be 1.6. So 1.5 in the background, 1.68. It's nearly 1.7 that. So it's 1.5 to 1.7. So bear that in mind when we go back to his video and look at his picture there. So I'm going to say that the mountain in the background is 1.5, and I'm going to say the mountain in the foreground is 1.68 or nearly 1.7. And that then basically is angular size complete. It matches the picture, and we know that perspective is a thing. We know that things do get smaller. But the problem is that if we live in a ball, you have to take into account the curvature as well. So basically, we know that the mountain of Mount St. Helens should be bigger, and we know that Mount Rainier should be smaller when you do perspective. So how do we deal with dropping Mount Rainier into the curvature of the Earth? Well, there's two ways we can do it, and it doesn't really matter which way we do it, but what we can do is we can take off the actual curvature drop at this distance for Mount Rainier. We can take that off the height, and then do the calculation for its angular size. But it's not our claim. We don't really need to do it. As long as I can demonstrate to you guys that we should be taking off the actual curvature amount of the Earth, off the actual height of the mountain, then calculating down the angular size, that's going to be significantly less. That's going to be like 0.8 of a degree, 0.9 degrees, because I'll show you the curvature calcs for it. So I need to know the distance. The distance is it's that 1673.71. So 1673.71. Let's do that again. 1673.71. Curve calculator. So target distance in miles. 16. Oh, it's not in miles, is it?
7391. Oh, right.
Right, we need it in kilometers. Right, hang on. So 1673.71. Is that what it was?
167391, I think it was.
I'll just check it here. So 167371. 167371. So so meters into kilometers should give us this. Well, it shouldn't it be 167? Yeah, it's going to be 167. So
yeah, it should just be divided by 1,000, right?
Yeah, so we should 167 kilometers, and the eye height will put 0 just to give us the drop. And then what that then does, eye height 0, and then distance in kilometers. There we go. So we got 2,188, right? That's the actual, that's the drop of the Earth if we live on a ball. So we got 2,188, but we can take that off the height of 4,392 because that's the curve, that's the drop, that's how much is going to drop into the curve. So if we do a quick sum, we've got 4,392, was it? So 4,392 minus the amount of drop, which was 2,188. 2,188 gives you 2,204. If you then do the angular size conversion, which I'm not going to do, but if everybody accepts the gist, which is that that's reflecting how much it drops into the curve that we don't actually live on, then you can understand and accept that the point is that this angular size for the corrected height, not the one at the bottom, this one here, that angle is going to significantly drop because the actual size isn't 4,392. You've got to take the curve off it. And then that means that this angular size is so small then that this Mount St. Helens is going to dwarf it.
Just do it. Just stick the number in.
I don't know whether I explained that. Did everybody understand what I was saying there?
Just do the calculation on the size after it's dropped around the curve of the Earth that we don't have.
Well, isn't that theirs?
Well, it's for them to do, but you may as well do it just to round out your demonstration. So you've taken the angular size after reducing what you'd actually see based on how much it drops behind the curve of the Earth.
Shut up.
And then you put it into the calculator to see what you'd actually see in terms of its angular size if it was on a curved Earth, and see if it matches your assertion that it would be gone. I think it will, on account of the fact that the thing in the near foreground, what is it, St. Helens, is going to be considerably bigger in angular size than the reduction after dropping behind the curve. So it is going to be gone, but you might as well show it in the maths.
All right, so if we reduce the curve off the height, we're left with 0.75. So let's just copy that and we'll go back into the document. Where's my mouse gone? There it is. There it is. So basically, without, oops, I need to get this to paste. I'm gonna remove this bottom one because it's no good. This is the 1981. I'll get rid of that because I've disregarded that because it appears to be wrong.
Just explain why you're getting rid of it.
I've got rid of it because it appears to be wrong. It appears that its 1980 height of that Mount St. Helens is wrong.
Just give a concise summary. What's wrong and why are you removing it?
I've removed it because his claim is that the height of Mount St. Helens appears to be 1982, and that's not right. It appears on Wikipedia that it's significantly bigger. So basically what I'm now doing is I'm using... basically I'm using the distance of Mount Rainier, and I've got the original height 4,392, but I'm minusing off the curvature, which gives the actual height for Mount Rainier to now be 2,204, which then reduces the angular size down to 0.75 of a degree, compared to what it is without the curvature, which is 1.5, and compared against Mount St. Helens of 1.68. So as you can see, if Mount St. Helens is 1.68 degrees, by the time you took into account the difference between the two of them with regards to the curvature, that angular size then drops down to 0.7, and it's massively different. Now, it's not for me to argue their case for them. It's for them to argue their case for them, of course. But this is my point, that his original claim is that this is impossible and this kills flat Earth. No, it doesn't. What this does is proves that this is flat and this is impossible on a sphere because the angular size is really important. And once you take into account the angular size and then drop it into the curvature of the Earth, you can see that this is massively significantly smaller. And this is exactly the way you would expect it to be on a plane. Now, what I have done is, because I'm doing this live and I've not really smashed it too much properly, concisely, I have really literally brought up my own video, which I'm going to encourage everyone to go over and watch at the end of the show, because it's now live. If I go into my videos, high school, it's called Flat Earth, High School Physics Teacher Can't Physics.
Copy the
link. Make sure you go in. What?
Copy the link, stick it in the chat before the show gets rounded out for a quick break, and I'll put it in the live chat so people can go straight to it while we have a 5-minute break.
Yeah, so basically, this high school physics teacher can't physics, right? He doesn't realize he's wrong, but he hasn't taken into account perspective, and then he hasn't applied that perspective to the curvature, because as we all know that the Earth is the mountains are supposed to shrink as a function of distance, but then drop into the curve. He hasn't done that because he's a perspective denier. But if he then does do that, he realizes that this is impossible on a sphere, doesn't support his claim, and he's wrong. He's got this wrong, mathematically speaking, and it's quite simple. Just calculate the angular size, apply it, and then do the curve on it. So what I'll do now is I will go back to the Hangout, hopefully, and then I'll put the link in. Where's the Hangout? There it is. Put the link into there, paste that, boosh. Go and check it out on my channel, because Conspiracy Cats has got it wrong, and it's really interesting to see how he deals with this now. Because once he's been told that he's made a mistake, he has to correct it, and he has to correct it with the accurate maths. So make sure you give him bully the guy. He deserves to be bullied.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much, Anthony. That's absolutely awesome. And with that, we will round out for a short break. And I'll say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, then smash the dislike button, but then smash it again. If you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. Also, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!